Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to look at what is, I'm fairly sure, one of the coolest new Pokemon that came around in Generation 8 in Sword and Shield. I like Grapploct. I like the design, I like that it's a fighting octopus, I like the colour scheme. I think Grapploct is pretty gosh darn good. But I'm still waiting for Grapploct to give us a particularly good card. We had the first Grapploct that came around in the Sword and Shield base set, and it's a very interesting card. 2 fighting energy. Until it leaves the active, the defending Pokemon's attacks cost 2 more, and they can't retreat, though it doesn't stack, which was kind of fun and interesting, though has not proven to be a particularly powerhouse effect. And we're going to get Grapploct V in the not-too-distant future. That one has actually been kept back for a future set, so we're getting it soon. But you know what? It's not... Well, it's alright. It's not terrible. First attack does 20 damage and stops your opponent attacking if it's a basic. Second attack does 220 if you can flip ahead, but bearing in mind we've got Glimwood Tangle to give you 2 chances. But I'm still waiting for the first great Grapploct. Could this be it? Maybe? Starting off with the basics, I should mention our translation comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet, and we got 130 HP, and I've talked a lot about the fact that 130 is way better than 120, because there are a bunch of Pokemon out there that naturally do 120, so that's nice. Retreat cost of 2 opens up free retreat with Air Balloon, and weakness to Psychic pretty much gives you weakness to Mewtwo and Mew, which to be fair is a deck which is running around pretty much everywhere at the moment. It's making its way into most big tournaments, so not ideal. But then again, you're a fighting Pokemon. That's weakness on Vikavolt. That's weakness on Pikachu and Zekrom. That's weakness on Eternatus. And it means you can use Karate Belt to reduce your attack cost if you're behind on prizes. And it means that you can use Martial Arts Dojo to do an extra 10 damage, 40 if you're behind on prizes. And it means that you're basically just one of the best typings we've got right now. It's kind of awesome. But what does it do? Well, the first attack for 1 fighting energy does 30 damage and says that the defending Pokemon cannot retreat during your opponent's next turn. Okay. I kind of like this. It ain't too bad. And it combos nicely with a second attack, but we'll get there in a moment. You see, this first attack, what we're essentially doing is trapping our opponent in the active. But what about something like Crobat? You see, Crobat V, a lot of people are going to be playing right now, and Crobat V has a low retreat cost, but it's generally played for the ability Dark Asset. When you play it to the bench, you can draw until you've got 6 cards in your hand. And it's got an attack, 70 and poison for a darkness colorless, but the reality is the vast majority of people playing this are not actually playing darkness energy or any energy that can count as darkness. So you're kind of alright here. You're fine. Trap it in the active. And assuming you're not multiplying your damage in any way, we're rocking a free hit KO. You're doing 60 a turn. Exactly a free hit KO. If you're behind on prize and you've got a Martial Arts Dojo out, you'll be rocking a 2-hit KO. But let's just, for now, let's just say a free hit KO. Or actually, no, I should mention, if you've got Vitality Band and Martial Arts Dojo and you're not behind on prizes, that will do 50, double the weakness is 100, and you will actually then get a 2-hit KO, which could be the difference. Because your opponent can't retreat, but they can switch. And they can use Birdkeeper. And they can use Mallow and Lana. So there are ways. Most decks are playing a bunch of switching cards at the moment. But if you can time it right, you can get a cheeky 2-prize KO on a Crobat, and that's kind of awesome. And this is what you really want to do. You want to find a Pokemon that's not going to be attacking you, or basically doesn't do enough to make it worth it. So, for instance, I mean, a great example here is Talonflame. Talonflame V, the one we looked at the other day. Because Talonflame V has got free retreat and an attack for a single colorless energy, which is literally Dedenne GX's ability. Discard your hand, draw 6 cards. I don't know what's going to happen, but you can use that attack turn 1 going first. So I can imagine a bunch of people playing Talonflame so that if they go first, they get an extra consistency attack. You can use it turn 1 going first, and it's got free retreat, so that makes it a great starting Pokemon. and then it's got an attack for free energy that does 160 damage. But there is a very good chance that non-fire decks will play this Talonflame for the first attack. But Talonflame's got a minus 30 resistance, which means you do 0 damage to a Talonflame, and you want to do 0 damage. Because against a deck that is playing Talonflame but isn't playing Fire Energy, you use Boss's Orders, you grab it into the active, and if your opponent has used all their switching cards, you win the game. Because you just deck them out. Again, you assume that your opponent's going to deck out before you do, otherwise it doesn't work. I did this before with Gabite against Hawlucha. Gabite does 20 damage and traps your opponent in the active. Hawlucha has a resistance to fighting and can only attack against EX Pokemon. And I weirdly won a Garchomp mirror match at an actual proper tournament by winning game 1. And then game 2, I waited for my opponent to have a Hawlucha and I just trapped it active and told my opponent, I'm really sorry, I am just going to sit here until you deck out. And you've played more cards than me, so you're definitely going to deck out first. We can carry on playing if you want, but this is my plan. I was honest up front. I didn't want to waste the time. And they counted some cards, did some maths, and we moved on with our lives. That's the kind of stuff you can do with this first attack. And make no mistake about it, the fact that it's a widely resisted typing is actually really cool, because there will be things like Talonflame that your opponent isn't playing the requisite energy with which to attack, and you can literally trap them in the active till they deck out. And it's really good that you're hitting a common weakness, because you can get something like Crobat that your opponent's unlikely to be attacking with, and you put your opponent on a very short clock to either draw a switching card, or just lose, or at least give up the KO. But I actually like the second attack probably even more. 1 fighting, 1 colorless energy, 50 damage. But if you used Headlock the previous turn, this attack does 120 more damage. Basically, and it's called Tentacle Buster. What an awesome name is that? So basically what we've got here is you don't even need to trap them in the active turn after turn after turn. You trap them in the active, you do 30 damage, but then next turn you do 170. And incidentally, 170 is enough to get a one-hit KO on an Eternatus. And no, you don't necessarily have to have hit the Eternatus first. So, I mean, Eternatus decks are often going to play Hooper. And Hooper has got an attack that basically says they will do 90 damage, but only if they came active this turn. Though do bear in mind that can be Scoop Up netted out of the active, and if you're playing Hooper, you're probably playing Scoop Up net. But let's assume they can't find it this one turn. They attack with Hooper, you trap them in the active, they can't attack, they do 0 damage because they didn't become active this turn. And then next turn, your boss's orders an Eternatus VMAX and get a one-hit KO. This could actually be really, really nice. It also gets a one-hit KO on Dedenne, it gets a one-hit KO on Crobat. And incidentally, as much as I like the first attack, and maybe spent too long talking about it, but it's a really useful attack, this, I think, is probably why this can be good. Because I think, and don't get me wrong, there will be games where you can trap your opponent in the active until you win. That will work sometimes. But similarly, there are going to be a bunch of games where your opponent has got a 2-prize Pokemon on the bench, but you've got nothing that can get a KO. Or if you do have something that can get a KO, you don't have a boss's orders. So what you do is a single energy attack, you trap something in the active, which gives you a turn to find your boss's orders and a turn to get that second energy on, and then you go and get a nice cheeky 2, or if you're lucky, even 3-prize KO, using Grapploct here. And I think these two attacks together can actually be really, really nice. The second attack only works after a headlock. Tentacle Buster on its own just does 50 damage. 50 damage is not good enough, and I don't think any of us are going to try and pretend that it is. But being able to do 170 after trapping something in the active, and I love that it is if you used headlock, not if you used headlock against the defending Pokemon. Because you're unlikely, a lot of the time what you want to do is trap something rubbish in the active, your opponent uses a Hooper, yay, now I can trap it in the active, and then you're searching for the boss's orders to try and get a nice cheeky KO. I like this Pokemon. I'm giving it I want to give it 4 Wassies. It's my scoring system. I'm giving it 4 Wassies. And I know that's probably way too high. But I look at this as a great tech Pokemon that buys you a turn, then takes a big KO. And in a world where everyone's playing Dedenne or Crobat, and they give up 2 prizes, and you're definitely going to be playing Boss's Orders, all you need is 1 turn where your opponent can't find a switch, and you trap him in the active, find a second energy, Boss's Orders, boom, win the game. I like this, and I'm probably massively overrating it because I like this weird little octopus thing, and if I am, I am. But I'm kind of excited about this Grapploct, far more so than I thought I would be when I started recording this video, and I'd like to know how excited you are. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.